I am so unbelievably thrilled to be joined by Nita Prose here on the I Care About Books podcast for booknotification.com. Nita, so great to be chatting with you. And you're in Europe? Is that what I heard?
Not right now. I will be next week right here. I'm here for now.
You're here for now, but you're headed out to Europe. That's so unbelievably exciting. Congratulations to you. And then you'll be making your way back to Kingston, Ontario for Kingston Writers Fest. And you'll be joined actually September the 20th. And I've got all my details right here because this looks like it's going to be really fun. Mystery at the Marriott alongside Kate Hilton. Tell me a little bit about coming to Kingston Writers Fest.
I have been a longtime fan and supporter of the Kingston Writers Fest because, of course, I was an editor for many, many years, and many of my authors went. And I loved it. It's really one of my favorite festivals in this country. So I am thrilled to be able to participate this year.
And Margaret Atwood kicked everything off a couple of weeks ago. There was a great opportunity to listen to her chat alongside Ian Williams and to have Margaret at the festival, you know, being who this is, Margaret Atwood. And then just a week or so later, hearing about the banned books in Alberta. And I know I was going to jump into this a little bit later into our conversation, but Nita, I thought this was an interesting turn of events in this country to hear about books being pulled off the shelves. So I'm going to lead off right there because as a writer, as an editor, as someone who's a fan of books, I wanted to get your opinion on what's going on right now in Edmonton.
It's absolutely devastating. It is terrifying. And yeah, I think you're right to point out Atwood in that same breath, because of course she has for so long not only held up Canadian writers and Canadian literature, but has, maintained the importance of freedom of speech for writers in our country. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And we're seeing that attacked right now. And that is a very frightening prospect for all of us. So the more festivals we attend, the more we talk about books like what you do on your podcast, the more we allow for people to get books into their hands and for them to read what they want.
Yes.
Better.
Right. And, I was actually musing about what was going on and had put up a big post about how my children and we like to participate in kind of our own version of the book flood from Iceland. Yes. And every Christmas Eve, my kids are given a book. And when they lived at home, they were also given a flashlight so they could read their books by night before, the big day came the next day. And to this day, my children who are now 25, 22, and 19, they still are given a book every year at Christmas. And I will just call them and say, what's on your wish list? And they will have one on the ready.
You know what we need to do? We need to do a banned book flood list. Ooh. Right?
Ooh, I like that.
Have a banned book flood day where we give each other banned books, where we support those people whose voices, for whatever reasons, are being silenced, and we give them the space to be read, to be talked about, and to be enjoyed.
And I think, you really hit the nail on the head with this, because when we're talking about these books being banned, who has the authority to say that? Who was granted the authority to say that book's being banned? I'd really like to meet that guy and just say, oh, so you're the authority.
Yep. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, it's not one person, and there is a movement.
No, there is a movement.
That believes that, freedom of speech shouldn't exist.
I know.
We must speak louder.
Absolutely. I love the sentiment. And we'll segue into lighter conversation. Just a smidge. This is so important, but we're going to get into all of it today, Nita. We're going to talk about AI. We're going to talk about it all. But I do want to talk about The Maid's Secret, which I am just in the throes of right now. I had read so much about this book and all of the wonderful reviews, but I have to lead off with the imagery. And that is one thing when I'm reading a book. Can I find myself lost in the environment of my characters? Can I see and can I smell and can I hear everything that is going on with them? And one of the things that Molly had said was that her brain was as soft as unripened cheese. And in that very in that moment, I really understood where she was when she was so just taken over by, the camera crews and everything that was overstimulating her. And I just loved that imagery so much. So I had to point that out right off the hop, Nita. Just the imagery of this book is so astounding.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, well, my brain also feels like unripened cheese at least twice a day, some often more, but that is the life of a writer, I must say. But for me, the importance of world building is something, just so quintessentially relevant. And certainly for this world, I tried to create a hyper real space that didn't exist in a place we know. I have a lot of people asking me all the time, well, where is this set? I mean, I can't figure it out. It must be New York. And I'll say, sure, if that's what you think it was, it was. And then somebody else will say, I thought it was the UK. And I'll say, absolutely, you're 100% right. The point is to allow space for the reader to invent with me. I don't consider myself a solo creator. I put some words on the page and I leave all kinds of space for the reader to finish what I started. And in that way, collaborate with me on the world building. And the imagery is certainly a very big part of that.
I love talking about putting the words on the page, because I read that at one point in your career, you were writing 7 days a week because you also had the 9-to-5er. Talk about that. I mean, that's not an easy thing. And before I let you answer, I just wanted to comment on that because James Patterson just gave away a bunch of grants to authors in an effort to help them finish their books.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic and very generous. Yes, I did work 7 days a week. I was a vice president and editorial director of a very big publishing house at the time, Simon & Schuster, when The Maid hit. And I loved my job, Care. It wasn't like I hated it. I loved working with writers. I love writers. I love participating in the creation of these worlds and characters and narrative. And so I was really reticent to give up a career that had taken me 20 years to get where I was. It just felt like, what? I can't do that. So I kept at it and I did both. And yes, I did work 7 days a week. And now I have finally quit my big publishing job. And I can't tell you how difficult that was. It remains difficult. But here is the punchline. I still work 7 days a week.
Wow. And I mean, because you love your job.
Because I love my job as a writer. And I find now that in my writing space, when I'm writing, and that doesn't mean I'm writing for 12 months of the year, but when I'm in a book, I have such a hard time taking a day off because I lose all the threads. It's like I'm weaving this thing and there's so many little pieces. And the second I leave it, it disappears. And trying to find those threads again is actually so difficult that I find it easier to work 7 days a week than 5.
Well, I love the notion that a lot of musicians will wake up in the middle of the night, they'll hear a melody in their head, they've got to sing it into a voice recorder so that they've got it right then and there when they're refreshed and ready to write. That must be the same for yourself.
Absolutely. And when I'm in it, I feel sort of like I'm living 2 lives at the same time. Part of me when I'm writing is still in the book, even when I'm just me. And I'll be doing the dishes or whatever, and I'm running lines in my head. I'm trying to find dialogues. I'm thinking of a little moment that I need. I can't let it go. I can only let it go when I'm done.
So I watch, a lot. I really love Blue Sky right now. That's a really great app that a lot of writers are taking to. And I really appreciate a lot of writers who are sort of opening up the spell book as to what their process looks like as they're writing a book. Now, what about for yourself? Is it sort of the same formula that you kind of give yourself per book, or does it change? Do you, write out your chapter outlines, come up with the characters? How does that work for you?
Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. That's for me. I always think, well, I'm gonna try to do this differently, but no, I can't. I know now that that's just the way I am, and then I have to have some fidelity to my process. And part of that is that I'll come up with an idea and I will know the most climactic scene before I actually write it, long before. So with The Maid, there's a scene, no spoilers, never, ever, ever any spoilers, but in the Maid, for those who've read it, there's a scene, 75%, 80% through the book that is cataclysmic between Molly and her grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And that scene, I swear to God, I could have written right after I wrote the prologue. I knew that scene. I could see it in my head. And I didn't allow myself to write it. And at the time, I didn't know why, because I was a debut writer. But now I know this happens to me every time. There's a scene I see intuitively. I see it at the very beginning of the process, and I hold on to it in my head, even though I want to write it. I want to write it so badly, but I don't, because I know that that's a reward. And that if I wrote it on that first day when I saw it, if I wrote it on the page, I wouldn't have to write the novel.
Now, did you have to leave yourself jot notes so you didn't forget any detail?
No, I know. I don't write anything. Those scenes, they're in my head and they're so crystalline. They play out like a movie. But the hard part is knowing how to get there. I don't even know the characters. I don't know the tapestry. I don't know the narrative beats. I don't know the chapters. I know nothing. I just see one scene that is the cataclysmic one, the biggie.
Wow.
And I write to it. And then all the rest is a process of drudgery and discovery.
Well, you listen to some celebrities who say they never watch their own TV shows or they never watch their own movies. Do you go back and read your books?
Not unless I have to.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't gone back and reread The Maid in some time. Now, I had to do some rereading because the 4 books are in a series, and sometimes I would forget, what was that small detail here that I have to make coincide with the rest of the series. So there were moments when I had to read for that purpose. But I understand that notion of not going back and how awkward it is. It's like that, I mean, you must experience this, listening to yourself on the podcast and not recognizing your own voice and thinking it's weird and strange and too much or too little or too and there is that feeling that, you need long swaths of time, I feel. I will need long swaths of time in order to revisit and get something from it.
Have you ever written 2 books simultaneously?
Not in this writerly life, but when I was an editor, I did a lot of ghostwriting.
Oh yes, that's right. Yes, so, a lot of memoirs. That's right.
Lot of memoirs, a lot of nonfiction, and in that world, yes. I mean, of course, I had to write more than one at a time at certain moments. And I credit, all of the authors that I worked with for really teaching me the skill of writing and the discipline of it. That sitting your butt in the chair and just doing it. Not overthinking, not stalling, not procrastinating. Of course, I procrastinate a little, but I think that my years in publishing allowed me certain skills and just an understanding of narrative that allowed me to work fairly quickly.
I think of all the various authors that I've spoken to, I think you really have the expertise to answer those questions that authors are asking now. The self-publishing versus going to a publishing house or looking for a literary agent. What is your advice?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, it depends what your goals are. What do you want to achieve? I'll never tell someone not to write. All I'll tell you is that it's damn difficult. But if you're driven to it, then ask yourself why. And I guess the question is, what kind of an audience do you want and need to feel that your writerly life or your writerly ambitions are fulfilled? For me, I knew what that meant. I knew, that I wanted to try and reach readers on a global scale, and that might require, some partners in publishing so that they could focus on all the things they were good at, so I could focus on the writing. And that often comes with a more traditional framework. But that doesn't discount the possibility that, as a self-published writer, you can do great things.
Mm-hmm. You can, and it seems to be, at least in 2025, that those avenues are bigger now.
Yeah, there are many more options than there were before, and they're all kind of hybrids in between, where you can have, a company help you design your cover and the rest, or offer some of what a traditional publisher would offer, but actually you're still much more at the helm. Right. So, there are more possibilities than ever before. And I think it just depends what you want.
I think this is a great time to segue into the AI conversation.
Oh gosh.
Yes, it's one of these that I think it's so important to have these conversations, engage in this dialogue, get the vibe from people in this world, what that response is to AI. And I'll just lead off with my opinion. I think that AI is like a Roomba or a dishwasher, and it's supposed to do the things that we don't want to do so we can continue being creative. And that's sort of the way I look at it. I would rather my dishwasher washing the dishes so I can sit down and have a podcast with Nita Prose, not the opposite way around.
Well, I tend to agree entirely. And since you brought up the Roomba, I think it's a great metaphor. So I have one, and I really wanted to use it in my kitchen and my dining room. It doesn't work though. There are all these bugs and reasons why it gets caught on the heating vents, and I have to watch it. And it takes like an hour and a freaking half to clean 2 rooms. It takes me 5 minutes. So it doesn't work well. And I think we're still in the stage in terms of novels, certainly, where that's what we're seeing with AI. Are there certain functionalities where it improves, copy, or improves how we can reach an audience? Oh, yeah. And that's where it starts to get a little bit frightening, I think, because there are lots of people who have worked very, very hard to have jobs that are very highly creative and are way more than a Roomba job, but they involve some things that might be more mechanical or rote. And I think we have to think deeply about what those repercussions are going to be long-term in our industry, not just for writers, but for the entirety of publishing, from designers to marketers to publicists, etc., because it is going to change how we work. And I believe you're right. Make the machine work for you, not against you. Leave the creative work to creative people.
Right. And now we're seeing AI and that introduction in school, because AI jumped into our schools before we had a chance to harness it. And now we have to go back and try and figure out what to do now, because it's already here. And, right. Our students are getting onto ChatGPT in lieu of doing their homework.
Right. Yes, that's a startling and terrific problem. And I'm sure the temptation for a lot of kids is extreme, but in the end, what are you going to learn from it?
Right. Well, that's exactly it.
Nothing.
Nothing. The Roomba taught us nothing. This book has been so much fun to read so far. So I have to ask a quick question, because I prefer my books in hard copy. How about you? Are you a Kindle? Are you audiobooks, or are we like the hardbacks?
I am such an omnivore. I read basically anything. I do, more than anything else, love a really good hardcover. And because of my years as an editor, like having a book in your hands, not a manuscript, not like loose pages and stuff, but like a finished book, an object that's beautifully rendered, it is the most wondrous thing.
It feels good, and you see your bookshelves just lined with books. It feels rich, It
does. So there's nothing quite like that, and I'm a Luddite in that sense. I will always love the very, very simple technology of a book, and I think it performs its function beautifully. That being said, I read in audio. If I go for a walk or a run, I'm going to be listening to an audiobook, and if I'm on holidays, I'm going to fill up my e-reader. And these are wonderful forms of reading too. It just makes reading so much more portable, which is wonderful.
You're not carting around 20 books in a backpack, which you can.
And I do sometimes, as you mentioned, I'm going to Europe, and I'm already like, how do I winnow the books that I want to take down? Because I want them to be books. I want that feeling of the book in my hand.
I understand that you had the same narrator for your books, Lauren Ambrose. Am I saying that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
So what was your decision to stick with one narrator throughout the series?
The fact that she's brilliant. She, it's funny. The day that I got those audition samples in, they came by my email and, from my American publisher, Penguin Random House. And there are all these little samples of voices. And, you listen to one, you're like, yeah, no. You listen to another, you're like, it's not Molly to me. And when her voice came on, it blew my hair back. I honestly got goosebumps. Every hair on my body was standing on end. It was her. It was Molly. It was this strange conjuring of a voice that I'd lived with by that point for years and felt so intimate to me that I could hear in my head, couldn't reproduce out of my mouth. And I'm like, her. I don't even think I looked her up. It was only after that I realized, oh, she's actually a star. She's been in Yellow Jackets and 6 Feet Under, and she's got quite the career. But she does such a perfect Molly and all of the side characters so beautifully that there was no question in my mind, A, that she should be voicing the maid, and then that she, I really wanted her to be the voice behind all of the books.
Wow. I think that's wonderful. And I love the continuity. And I know readers appreciate that, right? And as somebody who absorbs audiobooks, I'm sure you feel the same way. If we're in a series, having the same narrator all the way through really helps you to connect with that.
Absolutely. And with audio, I mean, we're talking about different formats and reading in book form, in hardcover or reading in audio. Voice is everything.
Mm-hmm.
When you hear those first 10 pages, if you understand that voice, if it sounds right to you, you will keep going. If it doesn't, and when it doesn't, it's very hard to listen to. It's very hard to concentrate on the story. Right. And to not sort of, have your mind wander off. And she's utterly absorbing. And it's so wonderful when you can have an actor, a voice actor, transmit your world that way, right? Wonderful. So that it's utterly entrancing and you cannot stop listening.
We have a whole bunch of folks in Kingston excited to see you at Kingston Writers Fest. You'll be here September the 20th. We were mentioning that earlier. Let's talk about what you're looking forward to at the festival this year. It's called Mystery at the Marriott, and you'll be there talking about The Maid's Secret, and it's going to be a really fun event. So let's talk a little bit about what you're planning to bring, what people can expect from you, what you're looking for when you get to the festival.
Well, the best part of that festival is it's a really even playing field. It's not like the authors are on this high pedestal on a grand stage and you never get to commune with them. No, it's not like that. I get to meet my readers, which is my favorite thing on earth, and they get to meet me. And we'll be wandering around, going to the same sessions, sitting beside each other, talking about books. And for me, that's the best part, is that, yes, I can participate and I can be on the stage for my little moment. But after that, we're just all readers. We're just fanatical readers who are enjoying the company of other readers and writers.
It's going to be a fabulous event. I mean, the whole festival is going to be fabulous, but this one really has me because the whodunit, the mystery of the whodunit, I think this event is going to be really stand out during the festivals. People can check that out at the Kingston Writers Fest website. And I have a question for you.
Uh-oh.
So I do. This comes from Graham McGaw, who is the founder of Book Notification. He would like to know. So firstly, he said he loves the quote, "Everything will be okay in the end. If it is not okay, it's not the end." That, of course, from The Maid. He would like to know if you have a favorite quote from a book.
Well, you just said it. That is actually my favorite quote from the books. And Gran, she's interesting. She speaks in quotations a lot of the time. And I don't think that's something she does for herself. It's something she does for Molly, because Molly's a little bit different and her way of absorbing the world is different. And she realizes that, and she knows that her granddaughter needs truisms and aphorisms and maxims and phrases that will help guide her ethically, morally, and in terms of her life. And so she becomes this profound echo in the novel, and she, comes up with some, wholly original sayings, and also reverts back to sayings that we've all heard over the years and that sort of resonate in new ways for Molly as she moves throughout her life, with her gran and without her.
Wonderful. Well, Nita, thank you so much. So much. I'm so excited to see you at the festival coming up, Kingston's Writers Fest, happening the week of September the 18th. You don't want to miss out on that. You can find out more about Nita and all of the wonderful books, including a great bio on her life and career in the literary world online at booknotification.com. Have so much fun in Europe.
Thank you.
Enjoy. I can just imagine like high tea. I'm thinking about like wine and cucumber sandwiches and what that must be like while you're in Europe. Nita, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kara. Take care.